Speaker is going to be Dr. David Oluoch-Olunya. Dr. Oluoch-Olunya is a neurosurgeon in Nairobi, and he will be telling us about the history of neurosurgery in Kenya. Thank you.
You heard David Oluoch-Olunya is another arm from Kenya who is in the background. I'm one of them, so because I was also putting my nose in it, he gave me the opportunity to become the patron. So when you're a patron, you're supposed to be long in the tooth and not being able to do anything, but I hope I can do something. He gave me, we decided to have a small talk about the history of neurosurgery in Kenya. I've got many hats. Is Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching Referral Hospital. AKUHN is Aga Khan University Hospital, Nairobi, Aga Khan Hospital, Kisumu, Neurological Society of Kenya, and the COSEXA is the College of Surgeons, East, Central, and Southern Africa. And we've got the Continental Association of Neurological Societies starting, going to be in August next year, and I'm the Secretary General. I thought I'd have those 4 bullet points. Oh, it died. You're seeing them in the other ones, but not this one.
Cable is a little bit sketchy, I guess.
Because you're seeing them on the other ones, but.
There you go. At least that one works.
Okay. Those are the bullet points that we look at. A bit of history. The COSEXA training program is in the region. Trephination. Trephination was actually done from time immemorial, and looking through the records, we were actually doing trephination at least 10,000 years ago in this region. And there's one group of people not far from here who have been doing trephination quite a lot up to recently, and it's in Kisii. We'll have a look at what they do. And the rest from 1901 to 1981 looks at Kenyatta National Hospital. It was known as the Native Civil Hospital, started off between the world wars, named King George VI in 22 and Kenyatta National Hospital in 63. So a lot of the neurosurgical you talk about or the plastic surgeon or the neurosurgeon.
Modern surgical requirements are 1 sterile nurse, 1 instrument nurse, 2 circulating nurses, not sterile, 1 anesthesiologist, the chief surgeon, his personal assistant, a resident neurosurgeon, the interning physician attached to his staff. Operating facilities, the low minimal requirements. Surgical lamps, sufficient power to operate. 1 tank medical arm. Blood of the proper type and factor, 500 units. Opening time, approximately 3 hours, depending, of course, on lack of complication. Surgery varies. Closing time, 2 hours or more. After 3.5 hours, the patient is tired. She is given something to drink, some water. The witch doctor and his assistants take time out to wet their mouths with beer. They are as casual as their patient, all evidently sharing the same complete confidence in the skill of the witch doctor. The surgical team enjoys the beer. The patient is given some gruel called uji. Immediately, the patient resumes her position for the continuation of surgery. skull surgery. Trepanation in the outback. No oxygen, no surgical lights, no scrub nurses, no anesthesiologists, no neurosurgery, not even sanitary sterile conditions. And yet, the chances of survival? 96%. Better than in a London hospital. So say the old Africans. Europe, America, New Africa. They all know much, but understand little.
And in that trephination, if you get CSF, you've not gone too far. So they know to get out the outer table only. And this was used for non.
Strips of banana leaves are used to bind the wound shut. No stitches here.
You're talking about tissue.
The patient walks away, and it is a time for the doctor. Time for him to show the results of his skill. Other trepanations, others with permanent holes in their skulls. Holes covered so thinly by scalp that each person must wear a head garment to protect his brain from the sun. There are such examples of the doctor's skill. One person has had 13 such operations. A hero of his people. It is an honor for a people to have a great and successful witch doctor among them.
Cosmas, that's the outpatient clinic. And Cosmas hails from Kisii, so he knows this story.
Are all a part of life.
And I bet you have seen people who have got these things, and they still do them, correct? So that practice was done, goes back over 10,000 years. So from our standpoint, we've talked about trephination. Recorded neurological surgery was actually done in 1949 by J.F. Jarvis. J.F. Jarvis was an ENT surgeon, and he came across between 1949 and 1951, and he carried out operations for children with hydrocephalus. And as an ENT surgeon, he also did. Peter Clifford took over from him. Peter Clifford was working under Pennybacker. Pennybacker has got a lot of instruments that are been named after him. And this was all happening at the King George VI Hospital. The first resident full-time neurosurgeon really started in 1966. Renato Francesco Ruberti came across from Padua, Italy, for a hunting safari in 1966. Hunting not with a camera, but with a gun. He fell in love with the place, and he sold out. The house that he bought was in Muthaiga. Angiograms, tables to do x-rays, and he was a one-man fitting all. Two neurosurgeons joined him from Italy also from Padua, Poppi and Camignani, and they came for a year in between, and then they left. Our first indigenous Kenyan neurosurgeon who was trained was Nabwangu. Nabwangu came through from Canada. After having had his training in McGill, he got home to Kenya and he thought, these conditions were not very good, and he went back. There's Professor Renato Francesco Ruberti, God rest his soul. He passed on in 2006. And next to him is Professor Adeloye, who is from Nigeria. And the two of them started the Pan-African Association of Neurological Societies, which really a burgeoning support for neurosurgery within the continent. In 1972, Professor Ruberti started off the Nairobi Neurological Clinic and started doing EEGs. And really, he used to run between Nairobi Hospital, where he did his private practice. He worked across at Kenyatta National Hospital, He'd also go through the Aga Khan, which is a not-for-profit thing, hospital, to also was based across at, it was called Ward 13. 13 is supposed to be an unlucky number, but it was called Ward 13. Our indigenous Kenyan neurosurgeon who took over was Gershom Sande. He went across to Belfast, and at that time there was the troubles, so there's a lot of trauma going on in Belfast, wars, and then he also rotated in Glasgow. And of course, Glasgow, you know, is the home of the Glasgow Coma Scale. He worked with Sir Professor Graham Michael Teasdale. I also had the privilege of rotating in Glasgow, and he was at the time in Glasgow soon after the Glasgow Coma Scale was thought of. And what was interesting, Professor Stanley tells me, the Glasgow Coma Score was actually written on the back of a cigarette packet. And as you know, in the west of Scotland, it rains and it's very cold, so they take a lot of whiskey. And they really decided that suave. So you have a bit of a drink, eye-opening to speech, eye-opening to pain, then no eye-opening, and then coordination appropriately. Dr. Maingi also came across, and he went for training out also in Canada, but unfortunately when he came back, soon after his training, after 18 months, he was involved in a fatal car crash near Bellevue, just inside as you get into Nairobi, and he didn't survive. The next neurosurgeon who followed us is Nimrod J. Eunice Mwangombe, who after doing his M.Med training in Nairobi, won a scholarship to do a PhD in Queen Square. And he worked under Professor David Thomas, and he did a thesis on gliomas. And up to now, he's one of our champions for glioma surgery. The first formal trained neurological surgeon was Mahmoud Bashir Qureshi, tertiary qualification for neurological surgery. He came back in 1992. After that, there was a few of us who were together around the same time: Patrick Akugo Koth, C.K. Musau, Ruben Paul Lubanga. C.K. Musau, Akugo Koth, and myself were in Scotland and Liverpool in England around the same time. Lubanga went to Israel, and I had the privilege of attaining the intercollegiate exam for neurological surgery in 1998, and came home in 1999. From the year 2000, there was now a new injection of trainees. Peter Wanyoike, who should be here, Gishuru Mwangi, Julius Kiboi, Florentius Koech. Now, Peter Wanyoike and Gishuru Mwangi, after having had a period of training elsewhere, Mwangi went to India at the All Institute of in Delhi, and Peter Wanyoike had a stint in St. Louis, Missouri. They opted to do the COSEXA examination, so they'd have a tertiary examination. So they went to Australia. Some of the facilities we've got, if you bear in mind, we didn't have formal neurological training here. And in 2006, because of that influx of people, we thought we should be able to do that training there. And neurosurgery was really being done by general surgeons. And part of the training would include that. So, and the last point shows that usually people go for 1 or 2 years, and then after that, they'd come back and then start practice. But then the advent of having formal training was getting into possession. So, in 2004, own system of training. There is Patrick Akuko Okoth. That's Ben Wolf. At that time, he was in Kure, Uganda, because you're looking at this when he was doing all his seminal work for the endoscopic third verticulostomies. I don't know who that chap is. He had less hair on his face. This fellow here was the president of the College of Surgeons East Central North after Professor Kahomba, Ugandan, across there. And this gentleman was managing, Kijabe. That's Peter Wanyoike. And there's Ruben Paul Lubanga. That's Gershom Sande, retired now in Migori. And that's a late Professor Renato Francesco Roberti. And that's Mr. Koreshi. He was not able to join us. And this was part of the groups that looked at how to get it done. And in the region, East, Central, and South. That's the group. At the center is Professor Mwangombe. He was chair of the committee. According to that, Mr. Qureshi, Ruben Paul Lubanga, Ben Wolf, Florentius Koech. No, that's Kahamba, Florentius Koech, C.K. Musao. I still wore ties those days. That's Professor Young, Gishuru Mwangi, Julius Kiboi, and Peter Wanyoike. Some of the regional centers, we talked about the centers where neurosurgery is being trained. Mulago Hospital Complex in Uganda. At that time, there was a professor who was there. His name is, I'm having a senior moment, he's gone for a walk. I'll tell you his name just now. His son took over from him in Sibirwa. Kenyatta National Hospital, the former King George VI, that's a medical school. And then within the region, we looked at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Black Lion, and all those places there. And then, of course, the Khan University Hospital in Nairobi. These centers have their areas of specialty. At the moment, Khan is able to do endovascular treatment for aneurysms. We have neuronavigation. We are in terms of coiling aneurysms, AVMs, and there is a PET scanner there. So in terms of diagnostics, it's gone quite far. His Highness the Aga Khan is quite keen to push things through, and is also going to give effort for Aga Khan Kisumu to get some of these things. So the training curriculum really is a regional one. Mervyn Began from FINS, Federation of International Education for Neurological Societies, promoted both in Ethiopia, and we end up having that training program. And that's the thing that was put through, FCSX Neuro, and I am plugging the Neurosurgical Fellowship Collegiate one, although I did work at the University of Nairobi for the MEd program, but because we hope to get Kisumu as a center for COSEXA training, I am championing that. Those are some of the people involved. That's Jose Piquet from neurological NED in Valencia. His assistant, God rest his soul, he passed on after a car crash, and that's Paul Young, who runs the thing in St. Louis, Missouri, the lab that is there. Now, in terms of collaboration, if you look at what can be done by volunteers, what can be done by raising funds, at the time that we found funds to be able to put a place, there was nowhere where there was people are quiet enough to be able to allow us to do so. So the funds were put together, and it's in Zanzibar. So that institute is in Zanzibar. When the first of the operations will be done in Zanzibar, Mr. Qureshi went with a shunt introducer, but now there's a fully fledged institute. Khalif Abdi Fattah has just come from there last week, where they had a period of training. They've got neuronavigation, portable ones. They do neuroendoscopy. There's a brain lab. So that institute exists, and you look over the Indian Ocean, and it works. No fuss. So what can be done with collaborations? So I'll just run through some of the people who have benefited around the region. So Mike Hagland from Duke University helps people in Uganda. So Mulago, so he's actually taking care of Mulago. So the training programs, like I said, COSEXA, the MEd program for University of Nairobi. We have some collaborations with the Chinese, where they have given us China 100 program, so people can have a full training in China. And of course, some people have gone to South Africa to have the MEd program and the FCS program as well. Will from Cornell, Tanzania, the neurosurgery projects also. We sometimes go and lecture there, so we have training program there also. Now, I'll give you some of the mugshots of the people who have benefited from the training program. Ben Okanga, in English we say no Yauholo, but he's gone down to Mombasa to work. He's doing neurosurgery there. There's a series of training and so on and so forth, but he was able to benefit from the training program from the World Federation of Neurological Societies. He's had a microscope, equipment, and now he's operating. He's actually doing endoscopic endonasal surgery for pituitary tumors. He's one of the people we trained. Mugendi, he's in Embu. He's not only a neurological surgeon, he's also the med soup. So, and Embu is an independent, so they're able to attract funding. And I know for sure, as a neurosurgeon, and the fact that he benefited from the collegiate training, he's going to push things further. Blessings is in Mbarara, Uganda. He's working together with David Kitia, one of the first COSEXA trainees. So there are two of them there. Kitia is the head of the department, and that's Mbarara Teaching Hospital, where Kitia and Hindu are working. And then Peter Gishuru Mwangi, like I said, he got his COSEXA fellowship. He's the head of the clinical services. David Kitia, I said, is head of the teaching in Mbarara. The courses at the Institute in Zanzibar, those are the kind of courses that you have. Fully fledged. World Federation, Karl Storz, the Orthopedic Association, it's all there. They've got image intensifiers. That can be done because of collaboration. I'm saying this loudly because this is what we need to have in Kisumu. There's water outside and you can do that. So some of the impact. That's Bore. He went and worked in Japan with Shizuo Oi. Peter Wanyoike, who now runs his brain and spine rehabilitation system. Andrew Nyaoncha, who did his last training in Bristol. The last COSEX examination, he was the top student. That's Ben. And there's Kitia, Ishuru Mwangi. And that is Mayaya, who also from Tanzania. That's Mugeni we've seen. And we've seen those guys already before. So that's Nyaoncha in Consolata Mission Hospital in Nyeri. Mayaya in Bugando, Tanzania. Bugando, Tanzania, by the way, it's right on the Lake Victoria. So we have similar culture. Right now, when the hyacinth disappears here, it goes across to Bugando. So we're quiet here, so they're suffering there. The other program, the MMed program, they started off the same way, but we split off. And all of this training is actually done at the University of Nairobi. And at the moment, the bulk of them are both in Eldoret and Nairobi. The only person who is out of that place is one who we are enticing to work in Kisumu, who is Dr. Leo Gutha. We are still trying to get the county to give him a job for sure, and we hope he'll give him up. So he's here. He's the one we are trying to entice to. That 5,000 clap for him, because he's still standing after doing a CP angle tumor. And these are he's eventually, God willing, going to go down to Mombasa to help Ben Okanga. The FNS Foundation gave a boost to the program because they saw that it is collegiate. We're not staying in an ivory tower in a place. We work around wherever it is, gain the experience. It is an apprenticeship, but with collaborations like this, Kisumu Neuroscience Initiative, it's perfect because we have the case mix, we have the volume, we have the enthusiasm, and we've also got the support not only from the hospital itself, support from the county government, and this should be able to work. Now, behind this, there's a grandfather for Professor Majid Sami, who's across from Hanover. He felt that this is one of those things that should work. So, as well as that, there are centers across in North Africa, in Morocco, Rabat, and in Egypt who are assisting us in doing this training. So those who are bilingual can also do so. And we started this by a major breakthrough when we sat together to try and get the continent of Africa working together as one association, the regional bodies to work together, because neurosurgeons are all type A's, I'm told. They all want their own bit, but we were able, therefore, it was the beginning of the Continental Association of Neurological Societies. These are the current trainees. Andrew Nyaoncha has actually graduated. Abdi Fatah, who you just seen now, Peter Waweru, who is he's just gone to for a stint. Where has he gone to? He's gone to Spain for a period of time in place for having dissections there. So in conclusion, international collaboration is vital. What you're doing for us here, skill set, it is equipment, it is raising the bar. We had the privilege of training elsewhere, but we brought it back home. And the fact that you are able to spend time and come across and assist us in getting that next level is perfect. The impact, it is going direct to the patients, directly. Not necessarily between elective and trauma cases for the beginning of the year. And in terms of development, that is one thing which I think will push us forward. Those bullet points, this is what we hope for. Neuroscience Initiative is here. The COSEX training program, we have got a time limit. We want Jaramogi Oginga Odinga to be able to be inspected by 2020 so that we'll be able to train neurological surgeons here. Partner with Maseno University. The dean, my professor, my senior, I have to say this. When I was in primary school, he was in the same primary school. He was about to finish, but I was still smaller. Although I've got more silver things on my face, he can still tell me to keep quiet, and I'll keep quiet. So, Prof, don't tell me to keep quiet. No, Professor Stephen Ogendo. Collaboration, FINS, WFNS, NED, twinning with institutions. I say Germany. We've got our brother from all the way from Germany here, Ogutu. Ogutu donated a microscope for us. So we've got a microscope ready for this. Twinning institution. The Neuroscience Institute, what Dr. Dr. Peter Okoth didn't tell you is that we've actually got a location where we can have our own institute at Jaramogi. We not only have that, we also have some soft money to start things off. So we are not sitting. And then, of course, you cannot have all of this stuff without research. And with the research, you will be able to benchmark. So Kisumu is on the run. We put a bid for the Continental Association of Neurological Societies meeting. We have it. It's going to be in Nairobi in August next year. Now, we have got collaborations for South Africa, the whole Continental Association, from Asia, from Britain, from the US. Both CNS and ANS are interested. But at that point in time, we should be able to get Kisumu in a level whereby CANS will know that we are making a mark. The next Zoom meeting, we shall let them know the kind of cases that we've done, and we'll move forward. In English, spoken in UK, we say, Ero urukamano. Merci bien beaucoup. Thank you very much for your attention.